Welcome to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Now here along with Dr. Bonati, your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Well, thank you for listening to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
Glad to be here as always.
And we have our senior fellow, Jeff Wagstaff.
Present, accounted for, and extremely senior today.
But still a fellow at that. Excellent.
Absolutely. Well, we have a great show today. We have Dr. Marilyn Wedge, author of A Disease Called Childhood, Why ADHD Became an American Epidemic. And then we have Professor Nikolai Zhelev from Abertay University, Growing Tiny Human Hearts in Labs.
This is really cool stuff.
An amazing subject. We can't wait to share that with you. And then, of course, we'll hear what's new in American medicine today. But a little bit of background for people that may have been listening and to wonder why you should listen to world-renowned Bonati Spine Institute surgeon, Dr. Alfred Bonati. Well, that's because he was instrumental in changing spine surgery forever. There was invasive open back surgeries being done, and they didn't yield really good results. People were having like 65% failure rates, and if they had multiple fusions, that was getting close to like 85% failure. He didn't like that, so he actually had advanced arthroscopic surgery in other joints, and during that time, he developed the Bonati spine procedures and the tools to make it all possible to really get to the root of somebody's problem and give them true pain resolve. And a recent 7.5 to nearly 8-year study has stated that we have 98.75% patient-reported success.
That's near perfect. I mean,
is.
Yeah, doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly. So you should really pay attention to when he talks, because he doesn't just treat a symptom, he actually gets to the true root of the problem. And we're happy to have on the show a patient. So up first,
In today's Back to Life segment, we will talk to a patient of the Bonati Spine Institute who went from living a life that was restricted by pain and discomfort through their journey of finding the Bonati Spine Institute and are now living pain-free.
well, I'm excited to welcome Bubba Kirkland to the show, and he's calling from Louisiana.
How you doing, Bubba?
I'm doing great.
Perfect name for a gentleman from Louisiana. I was just there in New Orleans recently. Great city. One of my favorites.
Well, you have quite the story to tell. So why don't you start off by telling us how long ago you experienced pain with your back and how that onset of pain occurred?
All right. Back in the 1980s, I was going to college up in Louisiana Tech, and I come home during an ice storm. And on the way home, I stopped to help some people, and you couldn't walk, and I slipped and fell on basically on my wallet on my right side, and that started a lot of my lower back problems. And then in the 80s, I'm a contractor, and I've been self-employed all my life, and I was running some heavy equipment, a dozer, back in probably about 1983, and I suffered severe whiplash on that piece of equipment. And for years, I've battled lower back pain, neck pain, and continuously have always gone to a chiropractor. I've probably spent thousands of dollars going to a chiropractor, and now I'm 50 years old, and it was getting to a point to where it was just continuous. I wasn't getting any relief. I couldn't sleep at night. I had to get up at night by 2 o'clock in the morning. I just couldn't sleep, and just having problems. And I was having problems with my left shoulder, and so I've got a real good friend that's our chiropractor, and he was examining my shoulder, so he thought I needed to go have it checked out. So I go to a doctor here in Alexandria, Louisiana, and he tells me that I need a shoulder replacement. Ooh. And I was totally shocked at that I couldn't do anything for it but replace it. Right. But he said, hey, look, he said, let's look at your neck and make sure there's no issues in your neck. And I said, well, I've got some neck issues. So we do an MRI. I've never had one. So we did that, and I had about 4 levels in my neck of stenosis, of narrowing, And he says, well, you need to go up and recommended me to a doctor here in Louisiana, up in Shreveport, and I'll get, send me up there to get me checked out. Well, in the meantime, I talked to my chiropractor friend, and he said, look, he said, I'm afraid some of these doctors in your situation, they're going to want to just fuse you. So he said, look, there's a place called Bonati, and I said, yeah, I've heard about it. I know a couple people that maybe have gone down there in the years past, and he said, I think you need to go, and he said, that's where we send some people to, and seemingly have some great results. And he said, let's go to Bonati first and see what they can do. And then, if fusion is in the down the road in the future, he said, well, that'll have to be, but let's put that off and let's try this. So, they sent some information down to Bonati, and I get a phone call just immediately, like the next day, from a patient representative. She calls me, interviews me, and the next day, Dr. Grossmith calls me, and I'm just totally shocked that, here people calling me back right away. And so, they definitely said, hey, look, you need to come down so we can take a look at you. And so we get set up. We were delayed like 2 weeks leaving because I had to get off some medicine and different things. And in the meantime, right before we leave, I finally get a call from the other doctor saying, hey, we can see you the end of February. And I said, well, look, I said, I'm headed another direction. So my wife and I head down to Florida, head down to Bonati, and we get there. We're just totally impressed with everybody from the time we walk in. Everything is in the facility, from MRIs to X-rays to chest X-rays to blood work. It's all done right there. My wife tells him, I said, where's the hotel and the restaurant? You don't need to leave. And so we go in. I see the doctor, and it's just very, very, very clear, very plain. I mean, he said, you have pain here, and I said, yes, sir. And he says the MRI backs up what you're saying, and I was amazed that he read the MRIs right in front of us in the room. So he said, so we set up we schedule a surgery for the next day. So I go in, and I have a surgery in my neck, and as soon as, everything went just amazingly. When you go in with the people, every person we met was just amazing, and the nurses and the pre-op, and then we get into post-op, and it's the same deal. I wake up, and I'm like, I'm not hurting,
Bubba, let me interrupt you for a minute.
He's breezing right through this.
By the way, you're amazing.
Great storyteller.
He's so good. We haven't had to chime in at all. I love it. The actual procedure itself, okay? You're up on the table. You were consciously IV sedated so that you're awake and somewhat aware, so you're able to communicate back and forth with your surgeon. What was that like, and did you decide to actually watch the procedure?
Well, yes, I did. It fascinates me. And I actually watched a little. They woke me up enough to where I could see a screen down on the floor and actually see what they were doing and feel what they were doing at the same time. And then they were asking me some questions, along the way. So.
And by the way, what did they tell you during your MRI consultation, the imaging consultation? What did Dr. Grossmith say that he was going to do to you to help you? And did you understand it?
Well, most definitely, because in every room we've been in the clinic area, they have skeletal replicas of your spine, and not only do they show you on those, very intently about what they're going to do, and he shows you on the MRI. I mean, he explains to you what's going on and why you're hurting in this area and why this pain's going down your arm or in your shoulder. And he says it's all because of this area right here and or this. And he was just great. It was amazing that he just went through it with you right there.
You must have been very relieved that you didn't go through the replacement shoulder surgery, because you can imagine if it really wasn't your shoulder and it's your spine, you'd have still had the same problem and would have undergone a more invasive treatment.
Well, it was amazing after the first surgery. When I got in the car with my wife, I could put my seatbelt on. I could not do that before the surgery.
That's huge.
I mean, just a few hours. I could not reach my left pocket. I could not snap and unsnap my own seatbelt. And I said, look, I can do this. And that was just immediate when I walked out of there. And since I've had I've had 3 procedures in my neck, and I have probably 50 to 70% more mobility now in my shoulder. My shoulder still hurts, and I think I definitely still have a shoulder problem.
Okay.
But right now, that shoulder surgery is way off in the future if I have to have it.
Right. What was recovery like for you? What was that process like?
Well, the recovery was amazing, and I keep using that word, I know, but when we walked out, everybody was asking me, my wife, and another gentleman, a friend of ours was there. He said, how are you? How are you? I said, man, I'm great. I said, I just feel a little pressure, a little tension where the bandage is in my neck. And I said, let's go eat. So we went and ate, and went to Chili's, went to eat. We go back to the hotel. And my wife's watching me, and we're like, she's just like amazed. And I said, she said, we got to go walk. I said, well, let's go. So we went and walked twice that afternoon. They encourage you to walk 20 minutes a day, twice a day. They don't encourage you just to go lay up, and there was no reason to. I was ready to go riding around, and so it was just fantastic.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff,
go
ahead.
Bubba, after everything you've been through, would you be comfortable recommending the Bonati Institute to your friends, to family, or people up in Louisiana suffering the same kind of things you were?
Oh, it's no doubt. We attend probably one of the largest rural Baptist churches in Louisiana, and whenever we came back from our trip down there, we actually stayed 2 weeks down there having procedures done. When I come back, everybody was like, what are you doing? Why are you here? You had back surgery. You had neck surgery. I mean, they're like, oh, we're amazed that I was at church and walking. I had one lady that has been, she keeps coming to me every week. She said, I can see that you're walking more up straight. I can see that your shoulders are back. And she said, I can visually see an improvement. And they keep asking me over and over, you're okay. But when we came back, they were amazed that we were even back at church.
Well, that's fantastic, Bubba. And I understand we're actually going to speak to your wife, Angela, next week regarding her procedure. So we definitely appreciate you joining us this week on American Medicine Today, and continued good health to you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
One. All right.
And we also wanted to give a shout out to the chiropractor in Louisiana, Dr. Wynn Harvey. Apparently, he's been sending quite a few patients, and it's nice to know that when they realize they can't help someone themselves, that they
know where to send them.
Exactly. Well, if you or someone you know is suffering with those same type of ailments that Bubba had, they can reach out to the Bonati Spine Institute at Bonati.com or 855-267-0483. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to hear from Dr. Marilyn Wedge, author of A Disease Called Childhood. Stay tuned. Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years, and it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results, no pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone, nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now, I can garden, I can cook, and I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone, I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonatti created, perfected, and patented the Bonatti spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonatti invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonatti spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonatti Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonatti spine procedures, Alfred Bonatti, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonatti and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Well, thank you for joining us for American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
I am here.
Well, we have an exciting show. We have Dr. Wedge on the line, and she is going to be on to discuss about ADHD, and she's joining us. She's a family therapist who made headlines for her belief that ADHD is a fictional disorder created for profit. I think that's interesting. And she's here to discuss her new book, A Disease Called Childhood, Why ADHD Became an American Epidemic. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Wedge.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Kimberly. Thank you.
You know, I've said for years that ADHD is sort of one of these seriously overdiagnosed issues.
Yes.
And, you know, I've always thought that kids are going to be kids regardless. They're rambunctious. They can be annoying. They're obnoxious. That's what children are.
And their attention, it veers from one thing to the next.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Wedge, what do you think led to this epidemic here in America of overdiagnosis of ADHD?
Well, there are many factors, Ethan. I mean, just to mention what you were just talking about, children are energetic, active, and yet they're expected to sit still in school for 7 to 8 hours a day with very little recess, very few opportunities to move around, and then they're expected to go home and sit in front of their homework for 2 hours.
Right.
Now, this is not how kids are wired, and they are not what they are made for. So this is one factor, I think. Kids just aren't getting enough recess, physical education, sports, just opportunities for play.
Yeah, and I think children a lot of times do need to chill out a little more when they get rambunctious. Again, this is coming from someone who doesn't have children. So, but I had younger brothers, you know, and I basically raised them. But I don't necessarily think that they need to be put on medication. You know, how do you get parents to sort of treat their children and get them to chill out without having to put them on medication?
Well, there's many things. In fact, I just wrote a Psychology Today article on 30 ways to prevent ADHD. So one thing is to cut down on the sugar in the morning, start the morning with a protein-rich breakfast, peanut butter, yogurt, milk, cheese, eggs, instead of the Fruit Loops. Because having a healthy breakfast every morning does really help children stay calmer. Another thing is to have kids walk to school if possible, or parents could walk with them, because research shows that 20 minutes a day of walking to school can help a child stay calm and focused in the classroom. Kids need a break after school to unwind and play before sitting down and doing homework.
Video games? Do you think video games also helps?
I was going to get there. Video games should be severely limited. There's research that shows that children who spend a lot of time on video games actually experience the loss of brain cells. It shrinks the brain. So video games should be limited for children, say, under 12 to 1 hour a day. And children are staying up all night playing video games, which means they get sleep deprived, which leads to hyperactivity and falling asleep in class.
You know, Marilyn, I know that you sort of struck a chord with the public. You published an article about how French children don't have ADHD, and it's been read 7.5 million times. But explain why. I mean, why is this, as you put, an American epidemic? Why aren't kids in Japan just as rambunctious as, you know, a kid in Nebraska?
Well, that's a really good question. Actually, it's up to 9.5 million readers, and
well, all right then.
As of today. But here's the thing: there are two reasons. One is that psychiatrists in other countries see childhood behaviors that American psychiatrists see as ADHD. They see it in a different way. They see it that if a child has serious overactivity and inattentiveness, that there's something amiss in the child's world. In other words, they take a psychosocial view. And also the procedure for diagnosing a child in France is 8 sessions. You have to have 8 sessions meeting with the child and the family. So that's at least 8 hours before a diagnosis is made. In the United States, a child walks into a child psychiatrist or a pediatrician, 15-minute interview, he gets prescribed a medication. Right. It's a different way of looking at children's problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also mentioned the No Child Left Behind and how they're given certain situations where they didn't have to test because of their issues.
Their disorder.
Exactly. What happens with schools who are funded, whose funding depends on standardized test scores, and this is a big issue. I just saw it last night on the PBS NewsHour. Many schools, teachers, principals, parents are fighting against standardized testing for this reason. When a school's funding is connected to their standardized test scores, there's an incentive to diagnose kids with ADHD. For one reason is that the scores don't have to be included in the school's total scores. And secondly, if a child has that diagnosis, then they are given special accommodations to take the test. They have a longer time than other students. So states in which standardized testing was connected with school funding had skyrocketing rates of ADHD diagnoses.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that the percentage of children suffering from ADHD had increased so much in recent years. And then it's not only that, but then the gender bias, 1 in 8 boys, 1 in 20 girls.
Right. More male than female, which to me would make sense because, I'm a boy. I grew up a boy, clearly. And, we have a lot more energy. That's just the way it is. Got about a minute left, Dr. Wedge. What would you say, what would be some advice for parents? I know if I had a child, I wouldn't want them medicated to the gills on, as you put it, strawberry flavored speed.
Exactly.
What would you give advice to parents as far as how to deal with this with a child that has excess energy?
I would give advice for parents to really listen to their child and discover if there's anything wrong in the child's environment. And to keep a calm and positive atmosphere at home. In other words, if you're going to have fight away from where the child can hear you. I find that the number one cause of these problems in children is hearing parents fight and having disruption in the home environment. So keep a positive attitude, nurture the marriage, and listen to your child. Turn off your mobile phone, turn off the TV, and really listen to what's going on with your child.
All right. Well, it's all good stuff. It's chronicled in her book, A Disease Called Childhood, Why ADHD Became an American Epidemic. Dr. Marilyn Wedge, thank you for joining us on American Medicine Today.
My pleasure, Ethan.
Thank you. All right, good stuff.
Yeah, and of course the big pharmaceutical companies do whatever they can to try to say, hey, let's drug up your children because we know better than you. If you are suffering from headaches, neck, back, or sciatic pain, reach out to the Bonati Spine Institute, 855-267-0483, or visit Bonati.com. Coming up after the break, you'll hear more of what's new on American Medicine Today.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now, I can garden, I can cook, and I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Thank you for joining us for American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
I am indeed here, and it's always a pleasure, of course.
Yes. Well, especially because we have Nikolai Zhelev. He is a professor and Professor of Medical Biotechnology, with Alberta University in Dundee, Scotland. And they have leading research that's allowing scientists to grow tiny human hearts in the lab in an effort to cure heart disease. I find this absolutely astounding.
It's pretty amazing. Professor Zhelev, how are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you.
So tell us, absolutely, tell us a little bit about this technology. I mean, to the layperson, it's pretty amazing that you can develop, and they're not just tiny human hearts. They beat, they're alive, they work.
Like 30 beats per minute?
Yeah, it's pretty
unbelievable.
It's amazing. How did you folks develop this technology?
This is correct. We're very excited about this new development. The reason we, first of all, develop small hearts is in order to be able to fit them in what's the industry standard for testing. Normally, industry works with 96 well plates, which are very small wells. So of course we could make these hearts bigger, but they won't fit in the wells, and we won't be able to test a lot of compounds. So that was one of the reasons they're so small, just 1 millimeter, to be able to fit in the industry standards for screening.
You just answered one of my questions, which was going to be, I mean, big? That's great that they're little and you can work on them. Why not make them the size of a normal human heart to work on?
Small is beautiful. Of course, we can make them bigger, but then this testing will become more expensive because we need bigger petri dishes, more media, etc. Small is beautiful. They don't have to be big for this particular purpose because small people have small hearts, but they're still perfectly formed. But the reason we develop them is mostly to test new drugs, and for that we need a lot of hearts rather than big hearts. And then, as I said, they behave physiologically like real hearts. They beat. And more importantly, they respond to different stimuli. And what we were able to do this year, and we're very excited about, is to induce diseases in these small hearts. So that we use them as a useful test system to test the efficacy of various drugs to cure different diseases, in our particular case, heart hypertrophy.
I want to back up for a quick second. You build these hearts, or grow these hearts from stem cells, correct?
Correct, yeah. We have human stem cells. And then we program them to differentiate as cardiomyocytes.
I got you. And where do these stem cells come from? Because obviously that's for the past decade been a pretty touchy subject about stem cells and this and that, and that it's coming from fetuses and things like that. Where do you folks get your stem cells from?
We have two sources of stem cells. One is we reprogram normal human cells, skin cells, into cardiomyocytes. In the past we used stem cells from human embryos, which don't come from fetuses, but come from IV techniques. Embryos which are no longer used for anything can be used as a source of stem cells.
Got it.
Okay. And for people that don't know about stem cells, they're basically the cells that when a fetus is growing, pretty much, like you said, you can program them to become anything. So they're like dummy cells almost, where you say, become a liver cell, it'll become a liver cell. Or they're pretty amazing things, are they not?
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Stem cells can be programmed artificially in vitro to become any type of cell, and later they can be programmed and made into organs, and that's the future probably in stem cells research and stem cells application. Because you can imagine if you are able to create a spare heart for a person who is suffering from heart disease. But by the way, my mother today had to go to hospital. She's going to have an heart operation tomorrow.
Oh gosh.
And you can imagine how technologies like that can help people who suffer from heart diseases. You don't have to wait anymore for, victims, car crashes, etc., to donate their hearts to you or to the patient.
Correct.
We can make
you can have your own.
Your own heart, yes, which won't be rejected by your immune system at the time when we require it.
It's just unbelievable technology. The one thing I wanted to bring up, Nikolai, is that it talked about the heart cells, and the amazing thing that I saw was that they'll never get cancer. I thought that was unbelievable.
That. Yes, that's one. Heart is one of the tissues, heart muscle, which will never get cancer. The reason for that is that they don't divide. We are born with a very small heart, with a defined number of cells, and the heart grows because individual cells grow and become bigger and bigger. But if you lose one heart cell, that you have one heart cell less.
Okay.
So you have to look after our hearts very well. And they don't get cancer. The closest to cancer is heart hypertrophy, when the heart becomes bigger than normal. And people with big hearts, it's not a good thing in medical terms because they die from a sudden death.
I know that's what my stepdad has. Now, I just have a question. Is there anything that can help fix that?
Yes, we are trying certain drugs, and the reason we need a suitable model. Before, scientists have been using rat models, but rat heart is different from human heart.
Right.
So we really need to test them on human hearts. And as you know, human hearts is very difficult to get, very difficult to find volunteers to volunteer their hearts for heart testing. And this technology will help us to have literally thousands. We grow thousands of mini human hearts in the lab, and we can try a lot of different compounds in order to find the best drugs to cure heart hypertrophy. That's really the biggest benefit, and that's where we are so excited. And the fact that we can grow them very small, but still perfectly formed and physiologically relevant, allow us to test thousands of compounds.
And Professor, how did you, just to back up a second, how did you even figure out that you could build a heart that beats? It's just beyond me.
That's a property of the cardiomyocytes. I mean, in fact, individual cardiomyocytes, even one cardiomyocyte, if you put in a petri dish, it will beat spontaneously without external stimuli.
It's amazing.
When you assemble them together, they beat in synchron, like one big tissue, like the heart beats. So that wasn't the most difficult problem, to make them to beat. The most difficult thing was to make normal cells into cardiomyocytes.
Right.
After that, they know what to do.
And you were talking a little bit about hypertrophy, which is the enlarging of the heart, I guess. And initially, your research focused on finding a cure for that. But I'm also reading amongst the prep material that you guys are working on cancer drugs and things like that, even though, as Kimberly said, that heart cells can't get cancer. They're working on diabetes. What other kinds of applications are you guys working on?
Well, my primary research was cancer. But as you know, in the cell, everything is interconnected. Sometimes the same molecule that in other type of cells can cause cancer or responsible for cancer. In cardiomyocytes, they're responsible for abnormal growth. Because all the cells, doesn't matter whether they're epithelial cells, cancer cells, or whatever, they have the same genome, the same DNA. Just they use some of it and some of don't use. Sometimes they use the same molecules for different purposes.
Right.
So that's why some of the compounds which we used to try to cure cancer, we realized that they also inhibit the enzymes which control heart hypertrophy. And we borrowed some of this knowledge from our cancer work to apply it in hypertrophy.
How far away are we from the application of your technology on human trials?
Stem cell technology is developing very rapidly. As you know, probably the first experiments were done in Japan, the beginning of 2005, 2006. Then we had the Nobel Prize, 2012. And things we thought were impossible 5 years ago now are possible. We can differentiate, program, and reprogram cells. We can now go even further, develop organs from stem cells. We can cause diseases in these organs and use them as a very relevant test system for drugs. So it's difficult to predict, but I'm normally an optimist, but even as an optimist, for me, I was impressed by this fast development the last couple of years in the biotechnology field with the human genome sequencing and other areas. So I would say maybe a couple of years we'll be able to find suitable compounds which will help us to control this disease.
That's amazing. Sort of broader terms, I know you folks obviously focus on the heart. Where do you see stem cell technology as a whole going? I mean, 20 years from now, will people not be dying of cancer and a lot of these other diseases? What's your forecast for the field of medicine and science?
Stem cell technology, they will make first revolution in drug development. We'll be able to develop drugs much faster and cheaper without using animal models. Because for the moment, rational drug development, meaning developing drugs based on knowing the exact molecular mechanism of the diseases, takes a lot of time because require a lot of testing. An ideal test system is really a human tissue or human organ, which we're not able to access readily in the past. So first, big impact of stem cells technology will be on drug development of any area. Any area require drug testing. So whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, cardiovascular, etc. We need to have organs or physiological systems where to test our drugs, and stem cells will advance this field dramatically. The second area where stem cells will make a big difference is transplantation. Now people in many countries have successful experiments in trying to build whole organs. Hearts, for example, are being built. Our hearts are very small. They're not ready for transplantation yet, but people can build bigger hearts and use them for transplantation. There are already a lot of success in fertility problems, for example. Let's say you don't have a good sperm and your partner doesn't have eggs. We can now help both of you by taking skin cells from both partners and converting them in sperm and into egg and having in vitro fertilization.
Unreal.
So all areas practically will be affected by stem cells research. Recently there was an operation where scientists pick up some nerve cells from the nose of a patient and then grafted them in the spine and recovered spine injuries. So people who were not able to walk because of stem cell technology can recover their nerve cells and walk again. So a lot of miracles will happen due to stem cells technology.
This may seem like a silly question, but these organs, when they're grown, do they feel pain?
Hello, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. When the organs are grown, do they feel pain, or is that something where it's?
Do they have pain receptors? Would they feel pain with not having a brain or being conscious?
No, organ on their own will feel. Our brain feels pain. Our organs don't feel pain. So there is no ethical consideration here. We can grow nerve cells, yes, to conduct pain to the brain, but organs as such, they do not feel. We don't have although the nerve receptors are in the organ, we feel pain when the pain signal is conducted to the brain. And pain, in fact, is a very useful feeling. It tells us there's something wrong with a particular organ. I don't, for example, take painkillers because it tells me that I should stop exercising a particular organ until it recovers completely.
Right. Yes. Oh, well, thank you very much, Nikolai Zhelev, professor in medical biotechnology from Alberta University in Dundee, Scotland. Amazing advancements in medicine.
Fascinating stuff. And from what he sort of teased as to what they're going to be, the direction they're going to be going in the realm of what Dr. Bonati does with the spine and stem cells and things like that. We're going to keep an eye on you, Professor, and we'll certainly have you back on, okay?
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to American Medicine Today. If you or someone you know is suffering with neck, back, or sciatic pain, they can reach out to the Bonati Spine Institute at 855-267-0483 or visit Bonati.com. Coming up after the break, you'll hear more of what's new in American medicine today.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Thank you for listening to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer and friend, Ethan Euchre.
Here as always. Happy to be here.
And to my side, we have our senior fellow, Jeff Wagstaff.
Thanks for having me.
And across from me, we have world-renowned orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Alfred Bonati. Thanks for being here, sir.
Hi, Wagstaff.
Well, Doc, it's that time to hear.
Let's look at what's new in medicine today, featuring Alfred Bonati, MD.
Sounded like you said Wagstaff.
That's what I did, Wagstaff. I love Wagstaff.
Because he's whack like that.
Oh, no.
All right, what's going on, Doc?
Stop whack.
Needless vaccinations, right?
That's our topic, right?
Well, yeah, that's the topic. I really think it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. That is an idea that came from England. like everything in medicine, is amazing how the brilliancy of the medicine start to answer things slowly but surely with more power. For example, one of the most important things in vaccinations are that a lot of people have fear to needle problems, and not to the puncture by itself. Some people are a little bit responsible to the needle puncher, but the majority of the people are scared of what happened with those needles. And in underdeveloped countries, the possibilities to reuse those needles are very high. But the problem is you cannot sterilize those needles, or you don't sterilize properly those needles. And the reuse of those needles are the cause of 2 million people reinfected with
HIV and things like that, probably.
Ooh. Yeah, with HIV, it's around 800,000 people. But the hepatitis C and the hepatitis B are around 4 million people in total infected around the world by only the use of the needles.
Right.
That is what transmits to the rest of the world the fear of using these needles. And even if in our country, where all the regulations about needles and the new needles that would develop to be able to inject, still the possibilities to get an infection if the people are treating constantly HIV people or people with hepatitis. You need to understand that the workers, these doctors or the nurses or the personnel who use this, when they clean the instruments, they can stick themselves with. And it's a tremendous amount of exposure to that. And when that happens, you have people that they have unretrievable diseases. I mean, HIV is now a controlled disease. But if you start to see that the insurance companies start to walk out from serving these populations because it's too expensive to have this type of medication available for them.
Right.
Well, the idea, I was losing a little bit my direction, because this is an invention that came, as I said before, from England. And what they did is they create a little patch, the size probably of a corneal implant, and it's plastic. One side is very soft, and the other side has a little bit of needles,
like
micro like bars, a little like micro needles. So they put that one in your arm, they press a little bit, and the ends of these needles, they break and they dissolve. And those ones are the ones that they create the vaccination. So you can imagine how fantastic the idea and how easy to apply this to the rest of the world that today is suffering of contamination just only because the lack of possibilities to clean the needles, because they're too expensive to buy more.
And I also remember reading that the Bill Gates Foundation, Bill Gates and his wife put a ton of money into helping develop these things. And also, they don't require refrigeration, which is one of the biggest problems in third world countries, is that a lot of these vaccines need to be refrigerated in order to retain their virility. So,
correct. Yes.
And these new needleless vaccinations don't need that.
Exactly. So I think this is one more of the things why the people needs to be constantly thinking how to protect doctors and how to protect medicine. I am all the time very distressed to think doctors don't know how to protect medicine, and unfortunately they know how to protect or try to protect patients, but before they protect patients they need to protect medicine. Otherwise the opportunity to protect the patients will not exist. The intrusion of the government in medicine is every day more and more powerful. And very soon doctors will not have control over how to deliver treatment to the patients. And then these advances that we see today, that we are looking for extension of our youth, practically live forever, with some type of a changes in our chromosomes. I mean, they are advances that they are, I mean, coming from this type of science that you go and you think, oh my God, this is something I read in science or something like that. But today, this is in our hands. It's right there. And the only way that this is going to persist and it's going to continue is if we protect the possibilities to have an affordable type of healthcare with an affordable advances in the minds of the physicians become really like today, selected and being responsible to medicine.
And that's a look at what's new in medicine today with Alfred Bonati, MD.
Well, let me be specific. When he says that, he is not talking about Obamacare because he doesn't believe it's affordable and he believes it's a scare act. With that said, that pretty much wraps up our show for this week. Make sure you tune in locally here in Tampa to WFTS ABC 28 Saturdays at 7 and on Bloomberg at around 6 o'clock, both Saturdays and Sundays, so make sure you check your local listing. Also keep in mind, if you do want to leave a comment for our show, you can do so at 727-495-5222. We'll see you next week.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.